coming to you from an unknown location, at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, bringing you the unknown. Welcome to another spine-tingling episode of Paranormal 411. Your hosts are David Reagan and Jason Scott, and together, they dive headfirst into the mysteries that lurk just beyond our understanding, featuring notable experts ready to share their insights into the world of the strange and unknown. So pull up a chair, pour a cup of something warm, and prepare to be enthralled. Here at Paranormal 411, we're not just a radio show, we're a community of truth seekers, adventurers of the mind, exploring the boundaries of the known and unknown. We invite you to join us, to share your thoughts, your experiences, your questions. Whether you've had your own encounter with the supernatural or you're simply intrigued by the inexplicable, we want to hear from you. So, don't be shy. Drop a comment and let's unravel the mysteries of the universe together. Buckle up as we journey beyond the veil of the ordinary, into the heart of the extraordinary. This is Paranormal 411, where the inexplicable meets reality and imagination takes flight. Stay tuned and remember, in the world of the paranormal, nothing is as it seems.
All right. Welcome to Paranormal 411.
All right. Welcome, everybody. It's a Saturday. What do you think, Jason? Saturday?
Oh, yes. And we got a great show.
Did you have a good day?
I did.
It's your birthday, isn't it?
It is my birthday today.
You just turned 21, everybody.
21.
Again.
Partied all day. I learned my lesson about partying on my 21st birthday.
Did you?
Yeah.
The first go around or the second go around?
First go around.
Okay. Well, that's good. Hey, you can find us at paranormal411.org. You can find us at Paranormal 411 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, or X. I just want to say Twitter for some reason. I don't know why. Tune in live every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturdays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, if you're in the metro Atlanta area, you can catch us on WDJY FM. That's 99.1 FM. Now, for listeners outside of Atlanta, you could go to WDJYFM.com, or you could click the link on our website. And that's it. From 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. is when that show is. We're also on Subspace Radio and all major podcast platforms. Now, don't miss our book. Let me grab this thing real quick. Right here. East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore, Edition 2. It's available on Amazon, or you could go to paranormal411.org. Right, Jason?
Yep.
East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore, Edition 2. So check it out. Join us.
Check it out. Like I said earlier, we have a great show tonight. We got Colonel Mark Nightwolf Brown and his better half, Barbara Edwards, going to be talking to us about their experiences. And we've already heard some of them, and they're pretty good.
Yeah. The pictures too on their farm.
Oh yeah, I got the pictures. We'll pull them up and show them.
Tell everybody that we're also going to be
taking
phone calls tonight. So I'll log into the board here in a little bit.
Yes. Let me put that up here.
Throw it on the banner, Jason.
There we go. And so Colonel Mark Nightwolf Brown, a unique blend of Cherokee and Scottish heritage, has lived a life marked by extraordinary experiences. He was raised in a haunted Victorian house. His early years were intertwined with paranormal, setting the stage for a life less ordinary. His father was a contractor and teamster. He worked on classified projects, including the transportation of unidentified bodies to what is now known as Area 51.
That's awesome.
These experiences exposed the young Mark Brown to the world of extraterrestrial phenomena. So he relocated to the South, and it introduced him to another realm of the unexplained, encounters with the legendary Bigfoot, or Tsukalu. I said that right, didn't I?
You did.
As it's known in his Cherokee tongue. These experiences further deepened his connection to the mysterious and unknown. Driven by a desire to contribute to humanity's progress, Colonel Brown dedicated his career to scientific advancement. His expertise lies in biofuels, green energy, and the intersection of agriculture with physics. A life filled with extraordinary encounters has shaped him into a pioneering spirit, exploring the boundaries of human knowledge. So we're going to bring our guest on here, if I can get back to it. How you guys doing?
How y'all doing?
You are on.
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good.
For
Doing well.
having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Some interesting stories. So, in part of your bio, I guess you were raised in a haunted house.
Yes.
Uh,
I was raised in Ohio, my parents being both Southern and both of Cherokee ancestry, moved north for work, like many of the families did, because in rural Appalachia, there wasn't a lot of opportunity.
Right.
So they both met in Ohio, Dayton. My mother was living with her older brother, and my father was living with his brother. So
Huh.
it was kind of fate, I guess. But was lived in a historical district of antique homes. And some of the things that happened in the house are unusual, to say the least.
Yeah.
So was that the beginning of your extraordinary path to where you are now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How old were you when you first?
I was really pretty young. I would say things started shaping up, and I started realizing that things were unconventional around the age of 6 and 7.
Wow.
Pretty much because I was getting in trouble a lot for something that wasn't necessarily my fault. But everyone says that. I digress.
Right.
It truly wasn't. There is an explanation. But my father, we were restoring the Victorian home. And so we had stripped out the woodwork and restained the mahogany woodwork. And in 1981, it won the City Beautiful Award in Dayton, Ohio. And so we did a good job. It's an absolutely gorgeous home. But my father would often lose his tools. And so that's no big deal because I'm old. I lose my tools occasionally. So I get it. And I sometimes think, oh no, but we could never find the tools. That was the problem. And I was getting a lot of spankings for missing tools that would never show up. Now, I was bad to take tools and take things apart because that's inquisitive. However, I would always admit to it if I took something and return it. And these tools never came back. So I guess one of the best illustrations of the differences between my events and someone else's, when we were tearing out the walls, they were made out of big, thick 2x4s, and there were slats between the walls. Well, these slats were slathered with plaster that had aged, 200-year-old home. I think the house was built in 1906, if I'm correct. Anyway, in the side of one of the walls we were tearing out, my father broke through the bottom, and tools started falling out of the wall. Now, this wall was completely encased on both sides. There was no way an animal or anything else could have gotten the tools inside of this wall that had been sealed since 1906. So that when the tools come raining out in the middle of the floor, I got some prolific apologies, to say the least. But I think that scared me even worse, that the tools somehow appeared in this wall.
Wow.
The reasoning, I can only guess at, later events that would point to, the supernatural.
Right.
Might have been little. You ever see Spiderwick Chronicles?
No.
Might have been those little creatures that, I don't know what they called them, but they were real mischievous, and they took stuff and
Like
hid
a
it.
gremlin type thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Pixie or a gnome.
Pixie.
Yeah, it could be.
Pixies were known for that. Gnomes.
I think it might have been a little different.
Yeah.
And to illustrate that, Ohio is a lot colder than it is in Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's pretty land, but it's far too cold. And that's one of our catalysts for moving back. And we had to use electric blankets at night because And when you have 12-foot ceilings in a house, it's pretty hard to heat,
Mhm.
a behemoth house like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was sleeping under an electric blanket, and I had my own bedroom. It was next to my parents. And I was usually pretty comfortable, but at some point after we got the electric blankets, I would wake up just absolutely in a hard sweat. I mean, just, and we figured out that 2 was the ideal setting I could sleep on all night long without it getting too hot. So I kept waking up, and the remotes was, we're talking about the late 1970s.
Yeah.
So technology has changed quite a bit. So it was kind of neat to have an illuminated dial, but this thing had 2 sets of remotes, one for the top and one bottom, I guess, or
For
maybe
the
one for each side.
for the UHF.
Yeah, I'm supposing, yeah. So it had 2 little remotes, and they had little orange indicator dials with numbers on them. And so we'd set it down to 2. Well, I'd wake up and just rolling the sweat. And I could think, what, you know, Mom, Dad, are you changing these? No, we've not been in your room, and sure enough, because, Dad makes a lot of noise. He was a typical guy tripping through the hallway. You could hear him a mile away. He never sneaking up on nothing. But they would not come into my room, but yet wake up in the morning with it turned way, way up. I'd even have to take the covers off if it get too hot.
Wow.
So I thought I got a plan. I'm going to set me a trap.
Oh yeah.
So you know how little kids think.
Yes.
They think, come on, let's figure out what this is. I'm going to catch somebody playing a joke on me.
Uh-huh.
And
Well,
that's it.
my kids wouldn't do that. They're scared to death of their own shadow.
I was mischievous, I guess. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to catch you in your own little game. So I slept with my head hanging over the bed. And I had the covers pulled up where I could see the remotes right underneath my face with my head hanging off the bed. For some reason, I thought it was a good idea. Well, inevitably, I went to sleep, and I didn't hear anything for a while, and I kept hearing scratching. And I kept thinking, well, it's not the little dog, because that's in Mom's room, and the door's closed. He's in there. So it's not the dog. What's scratching under the bed? Well, is it a rat or a mouse? Or we really didn't have any mouse or rats in the house, but other people had those problems. But I kept thinking, well, maybe it's a mouse. I just laid there and just kept watching. And sure as could be, I mean, there was I don't know how to explain it, but it was it wasn't skeletal, but it was a very gaunt hand, very long hand, come out from under the bed, had long fingernails, and it reached down and it got a hold of those remotes, those little dials, and it turned it up. And me watching it. Now, I didn't see what in the world this arm was attached to, but trust me, I had nothing on an Olympic athlete at that point. I come out of that bed like Superman with the covers half hanging on me. They went flying across the floor. My little butt and my little tighty whities went sliding up the hallway because I cleared 15 feet to get to the door. So after sliding up the hallway, I screamed, hollered, Mom, Dad, I ain't going back in there. Slept between my parents for about 3 days before I ever went back in there. The only thing we could discern was there was a trap door in my closet.
Oh.
There was a trap door, but it pretty much went to other parts of the house. And so, and when they got in there, it was full of spider webs. So nothing had been through that trap door, but they had thought, well, possibly. So they put some big, heavy stuff on there. I never had that problem again. However, so there's some plausible explainability, but spider webs covering the openings, I mean, you're going to tear those getting out.
Yep. No matter what it is.
Well, if it's something spiritual or, can walk through walls.
Correct.
Why would it go through the trap door though?
Well, I don't know, but that's the rationing of people trying to find a logical consequence that might have been, not thinking at that time about the supernaturals per se.
Said, hey, what's up? Best diesel tech. I know he just wanted me to say that. I grew up in a really, really haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole life, I've been able to see spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So I still see spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And so what scared me the most was that from the age of 3, I would wake up and there would be literally people, what looked like people, just standing in my bedroom. Wow. And it just scared the heck out of me.
That would be traumatic.
Because people you don't know is just standing in your bedroom, you know. And so I'd be jumping up, doing the same thing, running down hallways, screaming and yelling.
Oh Lord.
By the time I turned 5, you know, that was no longer a problem for me because I'd realized, you know, what they were. And
I really thought that there might have been more plausible explanation to everything. Of course, the tools being in the wall was
that's
some kind of a dead indicator.
yes.
But we had an older cousin, a first cousin. Her name was Debbie, and Debbie was my uncle's daughter, and she had come to live with us. And her dad had found work somewhere and was traveling, and the mother, they were split up. And she lived with us and slept in an upstairs room after that. And in that room was also a trap door in the closet. But that room had a feeling, and I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does.
there was just a feeling to certain parts of that house. There was a lonely feeling in the attic. There was a evil sensation you would get that you were not safe in that certain room, and there was the same sensation in the basement. Now, we never put 2 and 2 together, other than there was a series of deaths that occurred in the home over the years. We know that there was 2 widow ladies that fell off the widow's peak at the top of the house, and that might have explained what was going on in the attic.
Wow.
And apparently they were the original homeowners. But the things in the back bedroom and the basement, we never got to. But my cousin, she'd stayed with us for some time. She was to stay with us for a few years. She was going to just finish. They were going to finish raising her to 18. And something come to her in the middle of the night and knocked her out. Completely hit her in the back of the head, knocked her out. She woke up, went screaming. Mom and Dad, of course, went in to see what was going on. And she actually had a big goose egg on the back of her head. Now, there was stuff in her closet, so there's no way something opened that trap door in her room. But something hit her in the back of the head. The windows were all locked. Nobody had went up the hallway because everything in the house would squeak when you'd walk with it. We had teak floors even.
Right.
And that teak would squeak when you'd walk on it. But, you know, we had mahogany trim. It was gorgeous. But, you know, something hit her, traumatized her to the point where she moved to Georgia with him, got out of Dodge,
Wow.
never, ever walked in that house again. She was terrified of the home.
That sounds more like a poltergeist activity. They can move objects and
Yeah.
things like that. I'm like you.
Yeah.
I've had dreams and stuff and have seen stuff since I was a child as well.
Yeah.
And I would dream sometimes somebody was going to die. And usually, like within 2 weeks, they die. To the point my mother would say, you know, I'd say, Mom, I had a dream last night. Don't tell me. Did anybody die? You know, and she'd stop me and go, well, no. You know, if it was about me, don't tell me, you know. And but I can understand that. But we always call it a buffeting spirit because it's something, you know, that would be able to move objects physical in this world.
Right.
But, you know, but it was just like they was trying to torment somebody to irritate them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I was definitely tormenting, getting my little rear end tore up for the missing hammers and screwdrivers.
Yeah.
I
That's terrible.
I still think about that. That's
Well, how I got into this subject was David's house.
All my fault.
It was haunted. So we worked together for a long time, and he comes to work one day, says, "Hey, come over this evening. We're going to investigate my house." I said, "Okay." So we downloaded all the stuff on our phones. We was going to be paranormal investigators, and I get over there, and I got an EMF meter downloaded on my phone, which also records
EVP.
EVPs.
Yeah.
And started going around, and I was sitting in his chair, and every time it was a little girl that he had seen before.
Yeah, I'd seen her several times in the home.
And but I was going around with the EVP thing, and I'd go to my knee, and that thing would just peg out. Just every time, move it away, it wouldn't do nothing. Do it, and it'd peg out. And I asked it, I said, "Are you sitting on my lap?" we didn't know this at the time. After we got done with that, we went outside on the porch and was listening to it. And after I said, "Are you sitting on my lap?" it said, "Yes."
He
Oh,
says,
wow.
I said, "Bye,
"See
David.
ya."
Yeah.
I'll see you. I'm getting out
I'll
of
make a
here."
believer out of it quick,
Yeah,
won't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
That come to Jesus moment that, hey, this
Yes.
is not just exactly what we
yeah,
think.
yeah.
right.
Um,
But I did end up coming back, and we caught some pretty good evidence.
Yeah. Got some Class A EVPs from a man's
Wow.
voice.
Yeah, and that's how this podcast or show got started. With
Yeah, back
With
in
that.
2012.
first,
cool.
Yeah,
we had named it first "My House Is Haunted.com."
Yep.
That was the website.
yeah,
We were doing the podcast on our phones.
yeah. It's
Oh,
all
wow.
it's all like this.
It's just an experience can sometimes shape our visions of reality.
Yes.
And after we come through experiences, it's kind of an enlightenment where we, come into a different realm of understanding about our universe
Right.
Yeah.
and about the possibilities.
Yes.
And so originally, I did not see actual apparitions besides the hand.
Right.
I did see the hand. Years later, I did have events where I did actually see apparitions after moving to. Should we continue on with the ghost side of it?
No.
We can go wherever you want to go.
Let's continue
Yes.
on with the ghost side,
Okay.
so that way we're not bouncing.
If we go
around.
Okay.
over a couple hours, it's fine.
There's a series where we go from Ohio to Tennessee, and that was, of course, moved south. Where my grandmother had cancer, and so we moved on to a farm, and it was called Pomona. It was in an area called Pomona. Pomona is Greek for the Greek goddess of fruit,
Mhm.
and it was a 10,000-acre plantation
Wow.
that was run by two German gentlemen. Yes, they had slaves. The slave quarters were on our farm, and all through our woods was these big ditches that was dug at the top of the ridges. So when we plowed fields, we kept digging up cannonballs and Civil War bullets and figure out why. Well, it was the number one apple producing region in the United States, and this is in Cumberland County, Tennessee, or Crossville.
Wow.
And
That's
they
where I'm
burned
from.
the area. They burned the area. That's where my family's from.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
my family's from.
This may be
We might
related.
be. That's
Yeah,
scary.
yeah.
We might be shirt tail relative. But to make a long story short, it lay between Pleasant Hill and Crossville. And it was actually a much bigger, more economically viable community, had wooden sidewalks. It was a rich community. But during the period of the Civil War, they were providing apples for the Confederate troops. So the Northern armies came down and cut the apple trees and burned the orchards. And of course, there was skirmish battles all over the area. And so my father, he got in his later years, he liked to dig up things that might not necessarily be there, bless his heart. But he wasn't hurting anybody. We
Right.
just let him dig.
Right.
But he did dig up a set of shackles, a strong box lock, and we were on the original stagecoach road, the Walton Stagecoach Road, the oldest road in the state of Tennessee.
Wow.
And it was on the old Warriors Path for the Chaligi going down toward Monterey. Well, it crossed our farm. And so he'd dig up these relics, including human teeth and lots of other things. It was pretty spooky. But so we kept getting visions in the driveway. We had a really long driveway. And when the fog would roll out, sometimes in the morning, you'd see a Civil War soldier in the driveway. And not just myself saw it, lots of people seen it. My mother saw it, just any number of people that would come over. It scared my uncle so bad, he wouldn't come back for months. I mean, he really put him moving. But it was a Civil War soldier. Years later, after I got out of the service, I went to driving a tractor trailer. And I spent a little time at Gettysburg at a hotel. And I thought it was really neat to see the cannons and the old Civil War site. Got up one morning, same situation, dew on the ground, a little bit of fog lightly rolling in, just a break of twilight. The sun's just starting to peek up. I was going to go get me a bagel and some coffee. I was happy camper. I was out of the rig for a little bit.
Yes.
But
I understand.
oh Lord,
I'm 3 months out now.
yeah, I was happy. But there was these guys in the field, and I thought, how great I am in Gettysburg. There's a Civil War reenactment going on because these guys are setting up. There's guys at the cannon. There's 3 dudes on horseback. There's other guys standing around. They're all in Confederate outfits. And Confederates were gray. These guys were gray.
Yeah.
Which were named for the Northerners called them buttercups because the dye used for their uniforms was from the butternut tree. That's why it was all the same color gray.
Oh.
Just like indigo was used for the Northern troops, which
Yeah.
is the same you get your blue jeans from.
Yeah. I used to dig indigo. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. You understand.
Yep.
But these guys were reenactors, I thought, right? So I go in, I get my bagel, my cup of coffee, pouring the cream into it, and I'm talking to this little gal that works there. And she's incredibly nice. And I said, fortunate today, they must be having a reenactment. She said, there's not no reenactment today. She said, there's not a reenactment for a month from now. I said, really? I said, you mean that those guys out in the field are not with the town or an event? And no, there's nobody in the field. I said, there is too. I seen them. I was about half mad. This girl called me a liar. I thought, what in the world? The Yankee girl called me a liar. I take off and go back out in the field, and I'm determined I'm going to find where these guys went. And I'm going to track them into dew.
Yeah.
You get out in that thick
Yes.
grass, that dew, you can see where something walks, even a coyote. You know?
Yeah.
But nothing. I get over there, absolutely nothing. There's no tracks, nowhere, no dew disturbed anywhere. A hair on the back of my neck's going, woo. It's like, it is time to go back to the.
Go get you some
I'm
coffee.
going to
and
watch
your
some more
bagel.
TV and finish this bagel. That's my supernatural. So Barbara's got a good tale about her mother that I think might be along those lines, but I'll let her relate that. She's better at that.
Before she does, I'll say, what's up, Eddie? He's in the chat room.
Oh, Eddie.
He's just
Legends of
watching.
My favorite pizza.
Yes. The best pizza ever.
It is
Yes.
absolutely the best.
By far.
And the best diesel tech says he bets you won't lose any more tools.
Probably not. Keep locking the tool.
And everybody, we will open up the phone lines during the break. So after the break, everybody could call in if you want to call in.
You can go ahead with your.
Well, my mother, it was probably 2-3 o'clock in the morning. My grandfather had passed away in 1988, and this was several years after that. She woke up, heard my grandfather call Patty. Patty's my older sister. She's 2 years older than me. And she kept hearing my grandfather's voice say, call Patty, call Patty. She thought she was dreaming. And finally, it just becomes so persistent and louder, as she, kept thinking she was dreaming, kind of just brushing it off. Just like, call Patty, So she's like, well, maybe I better call Patty and see what's going on. So she called my sister, and phone rung a couple times. My sister answered, but she wasn't saying anything. She was just like really like coughing and choking and coughing. And she said, Patty, are you all right? She said, Mom. And she was finally able to talk. And she said, oh my God. And she said, what's wrong? Are you okay? And my sister told her, she said, Mom, she said, you're not going to believe this. I got choked on a piece of candy, jawbreaker. And she said, I was turning blue. I felt like I was going to pass out. She said, I couldn't find my phone to call for help, to call 911, call anybody. And she said, when you called me, I heard where the phone was out. And she said, I run for the sound. And she said, I tripped and hit my stomach on the back of the chair. And she said, the jawbreaker popped out of my mouth. And she said, and you're not going to believe this. She said, I swear I saw Ampy. Ampy is what we called my grandfather. And my mom's like, well, you're not going to believe this. He's the one that woke me up.
That's awesome.
So he saved her life. But my sister physically seen him, and my mom only heard his voice, but they were about 4.5, 5 miles away from each other in 2 separate houses.
Yeah. See, distance and time has
doesn't-
nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's irrelevant.
Yep.
And there was another story with my son. My son, he had health problems when he was young, and I lived in an apartment. I was in the other room, and he was in a separate room. And something woke me up. I kept hearing a bang and bang and bang and bang. And I'm like, I'm going to check on the baby. Well, the day before I had him at the hospital, they said, oh, he's cutting teeth. He's fine. He had a low-grade fever. Take him home, just put a word gel and everything on him, which is what I was doing. and this was early in the morning again. I opened up his bedroom door and I saw a being standing at the foot of his bed, looked like light, like almost like an angel.
Hmm.
And just for a flash, and then it just vanished right in front of me. And I'm thinking I'm half asleep. So I run over and he has 104 fever. I had to pick him up, load him in a car, rush him to the hospital. And the doctor told me, he said, if you'd have been 5 minutes later, he could have went permanently deaf because he had a real bad ear infection, just swelled up inside. You couldn't see it, but just, he said, or he could have died. But I believe that angel is what woke me up.
Wow. That's interesting.
It is.
That is.
Much we don't understand.
Yep.
So I definitely believe it.
Right.
Well, there's 11 known dimensions
Yep.
they have proven.
Yep.
And we live, in a third dimension. So beings from other dimensions, obviously, would be much more advanced. They'd be able to see us. We would not be able to see them necessarily.
Right.
But there may be crossovers. Who knows what the physics is involved?
Yeah. I believe that there is. I believe that that a lot of what we see may be dimensional. The way things tend to pop in and pop out. I think UFOs, not all, but some are that.
I believe that you're on the right track. I believe a lot of supernatural phenomena actually may have roots in that.
Yeah.
When you look at the Christian Bible or any world religion, when you go far enough back, you'll see a lot of correlations. Everybody says, well, you can't read the Bible and believe in God. Well, or believe in God and believe in aliens. Well, God's not from here. Hello, folks. He's
Right.
not from here.
Right.
Okay, the angels are described, and if you read the descriptions, some of them quite horrifying. I'm
Right.
sorry, them things right out of a nightmare.
Yeah.
But
There's hundreds of different kind of angels. We always see this cute little Cupid,
Mhm.
Cherubims
somebody
and
looks
stuff.
human
Yeah.
with the wings. And if you look in Ezekiel, none of the angels look like that.
Yeah.
They are scary. There's some that do. So
7 heads and
Yep.
Yeah.
6 wings.
It's
and-
very,
yeah.
Yeah.
if there's that much, and we already know that, those of us that believe these things exist, and there's millions of varieties of life just on this one planet.
Mhm.
It's very, very vain to think that there's not life on any other planet, that we're it with all the species we have just on this one planet.
Right.
And different temperatures and different
Doesn't it
areas,
say in the
different
Bible?
depths.
Doesn't it say in the Bible, Barbara? And you can, Barbara's my Bible backup. She's like a walking biblical encyclopedia. But it says in the Bible, God created the heavens, plural, and the earth. So what we don't understand is the heavens, the plural part. Probably gives a good understanding. In Revelations, it talks about the New Jerusalem, the city that's made by Jesus that comes back at the end of time. And it says, it's the description, and I'll quote, is a city that is lit up like a bride brightly adorned for her groom.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'm saying mothership.
Yep.
I'm sorry. But that, yeah.
Yeah.
And the ancient Hindus, I mean,
Yes. The Vimana and the
correlations, right
Yeah.
field,
Mhm.
which I'm going to segue
Wright
into
Patterson.
our UFO.
Oh, yeah.
So I was raised next to Wright Pat AFB,
Oh, yes.
which was SAC base.
Yes.
And so as a little kid, they had relics in there. One of the most fascinating relics I thought was aircraft made out of gold from Egyptian tombs. And I thought, how in the world did they have an airplane in an Egyptian tomb when they're still saying a goony goo and cutting stuff out of rock? You know, it make a difference.
Yeah.
But make a long story short, it kind of makes you question. And then moving forward, my dad, the same one that would get me for my tools, for the tools being missing, he drove a truck. He drove a truck like us,
Yeah.
and just normal Joe. But he was high up in the Teamsters. He was well respected, had 30 years of safety medals, hauled for a company called Duff Transportation. And it was green trucks with orange letters, used to run back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. Eventually went under, like most. But he would haul secure loads. And we knew he was hauling nuclear weapons because when they would use him to do that, there was MPs involved, state patrols, they'd shut down interstates. And see, the Teamsters at that time, and perhaps still do, had a clause that they had to know what they were hauling or the implications therein, more or less talking about hazmat,
Right.
Mhm.
you know, what potential. So when he's hauling a nuclear weapon, they tell him 33 square miles, won't have to worry about it if you get hit.
Oof.
So yeah, he had one car come through a blockade one time. And he was sweating bullets. Trust me. He's talking about standing on them pedals, but so he gets this phone call in the middle of the night, and we're eating in the dining room, and mostly he did city driving, and so he gets this phone call from the Air Force, from Wright Field, and it's got some of his Teamster bosses there with these guys from the Air Force. They said, we need you to haul some very secure loads. Matter of fact, it's an out of town job. You're going to be gone for a while, and you're going to have very little contact with your family. And so that was unusual. That didn't even happen with nuclear weapons.
Right.
You know, we were allowed to talk to him,
Mhm.
but they took him to Wright Field, and they had trailers hooked up to trucks, and they wanted him to haul them out when they get them hooked up. And they were reefer units. Now, reefer, not like the reefer you,
Right.
yeah, not that. We're talking about refrigerated transport, folks. So I'm keeping this on the G rated. But so he was hauling frozen something from Wright Field. Well, he kept asking because he was under MP escort with highway patrols shutting down the road same way, was not allowed to know what he's hauling. And he said, now, come on now, you tell me when I'm hauling nuclear weapons. And he had a friend was a colonel over there. And he said, I can't tell you anything about what's in it, but he said, I will tell you this. And he said, this is all I can tell you. And you didn't hear it from me. And he said, you know what they say about little green men? And he said, no. What? And he said, they're not green. They're not green. And so I'm thinking, you know, and so he didn't relate this to us to years later.
Right.
And so I was probably in my upper 20s when we're sitting around the table having a conversation with my uncle who lived in Beaver Creek, which is a suburb of Dayton, and his best friend who had moved from up there as well. And so they related the story about a UFO that had crashed in a chicken lot there, and it was taken off by a crane, put on a flatbed trailer, and transported to Wright Field. Now, story gets more interesting because guess who the truck driver was that hauled said object out of the chicken lot?
Your
dad?
father?
My dad.
Yeah.
And so guess who happened to be a block mason and was in the neighborhood when said object was actually taken out of the chicken coop and sat and watched the whole event? Unbeknownst to my dad, my uncle was there on my mother's side. So he's seen the actual object get pulled out of a chicken lot with a crane, set on a truck, and MPs go blasting into Wright Field with it. Hangar 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, man, that's
supposedly where
coincidental.
Roswell went too.
So his buddy pipes up and he says, well, I was at a road and the MPs and the police shut it down, and I seen the thing pass on the back of a tractor trailer and a duff truck pulling it. And guess what? That was my dad pulling this thing from out of a chicken coop to Wright Field.
Huh.
And some of those things got transported out to south of Las Vegas to an old, my dad described it as old mining districts, is what he told me it was. He couldn't tell us where it was. But he said when he got out there, they had a camper, Airstream trailers that had no windows in them. And he was aggravated because the MPs got him out of the truck, marched him into the trailer, wouldn't let him see nothing. I mean, nothing. He was an under armed guard. They wouldn't let him out of there. He said, I felt like a prisoner every time he would go out there. So hauling these materials. So something was being hauled from Wright Pat and years later doing research, you know, I read and found articles and stuff where the supposed Roswell stuff was taken indeed to Wright Field, which was SAC base at the time for experimentation. So it gave a lot of credit. I mean, I've got, look, you see it?
Yep.
The hair standing up on my arm.
Yeah, I see the goosebumps from here.
Yes. So, you know, for what I know of that, definite. But being raised next to said Air Force base, I've seen about every type of conventional aircraft, and I have seen things in the night sky that Vitals cannot produce, Ospreys can't replicate, and that definitely defies the natural physics of things.
Right.
So, did your uncle describe what this looked like?
Big disc.
A big
A
disc.
big disc. And they said it was disc shaped. Now, Dad claimed he hauled several discs, but he also said he carried some triangle looking things too.
Hmm.
So that kind of freaks me out about the
Yeah.
triangle looking things, because we actually seen one of them bad boys.
Did you?
Yes, we
had one
did.
not too far from our farm, actually the beginning of this year. And he called me outside. He's like, come look at this. Come look at this. What is it? What is it? And it was the lights. It was, kind of dark, but you could see the lights, and it just perfect pattern. And then a single one, like just really moved, and it was going so fast. I mean, it was not a commercial aircraft. There was no sound, couldn't hear a thing. And then you could hear what sounded like because my brothers were both in the Air Force.
Mhm.
It sounded like an Air Force jet, just a getting it, like it was trying to come up and catch up to it. I mean, that thing was just gone. And I said, honey, I think that was a UFO. So I had pulled up some stuff online looking, and sure enough, there was like different pictures. And I said, this is what we seen. I said, it is a UFO. But that's the first time. I mean, but it was way too fast. One of them come this way, and it actually looked like it was coming really fast, and it just stopped, like it was hovering. Like nothing can hover at that altitude. That's not even possible. That cannot be a commercial aircraft. And then it just like changed direction, just like sharp. Like I said, that is not
Wow.
a plane. So
That's
that
interesting.
is not a plane at all.
I know, Eddie and Susan, they see and they've filmed quite a few over by their house.
Yeah.
But all you see is the lights, and you could see them come up. And when you zoom in really good, you could see the color changing of the lights.
Yeah.
And this thing's up there, and then it'll kind of.
I think that what we're seeing as lights and we're describing as lights might actually be some sort of plasma.
Yeah.
By the best of my understanding, because the laws of physics really would work against any type of color changing lights. And I pulled a cruel joke on my dad one time. He had seen one of these, and he was elderly. So he's sitting in the front room. He's talking about all of his experiences with a big truck. I thought, I'm gonna get him. This is a funny story. You're gonna like it. It's got a big metal salad bowl about 3 foot across. I used to own restaurants.
Yeah.
So I got me some of these color changing LED lights that chase each other around it. So I taped them around the bottom. Made me 3 little legs look like landing gears, put a little bubble on top of it, set it out in the field. Well, it was fogged over, and I couldn't get the thing to come on real good, so I had to hook up a big extension cord and hide it. Old Pap, he was talking about his experiences with right field, and one day he kept thinking, he said, they're going to come back one of these days. They're going to get us. They're going to come back. He said, they're smart, and they've got advanced technologies. He's sitting talking, and about that time I hit the remote, and that thing come on with them lights going around it. And you talk about an old man jumping over a futon. I'm telling you what, son, he cleared a 4-foot futon getting out of Dodge. He was in his 80s, so he suddenly becomes 16. Just, boom. But if you'd have seen the fear in his face, because we did it as a joke. We thought, ha ha, funny, until we actually realized that it really did scare him. He really did. And his experiences, he'd been in the National Guard, he'd driven a truck, he'd been an outdoorsman most of his life. But
it was funny till he actually seen the UFO, and then it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Because then
Funny
he'd be like,
then,
okay,
right.
wait, I shouldn't have done that.
But old Pap didn't want to go out and mess with the UFO, that's for certain. I still have the salad bowl somewhere with the lights on it.
That's funny.
That'd be a good thing to throw out for Halloween or something.
Oh my goodness.
From a distance, you couldn't tell what it was.
Right.
It looked, the thing that
I
was-
told you I'm mischievous, didn't I?
Yeah.
I didn't ever tell you about the fun thing I did in Townsend one time.
Uh-oh.
I used to own the biggest restaurant up there. So you can only imagine. So at that time, Bigfoot wasn't a thing in Townsend, Tennessee. It wasn't even heard of. And we had the world's biggest burger up there. We had what we called a barnstormer, as big as a platter.
Mm.
And
Wow.
so we'd give it to you if you could eat the whole burger. It was 2 pounds of raw weight beef before it was cooked, and we raised moo-moos, so it was real.
Yeah.
I mean, it is giant, and we used a Italian Missoula bun. So I got thinking, I was going to order me a mascot costume for my restaurant. So I got me a big black bull because we was a beef barn, right?
Yeah.
We sell beef because we raise cows. He's like, yeah, I got your hookup. But we bought this buffet, and oh boy, I should never done that. But anyway, so we had some fun experiences. But I think one of the most fun ones is as I seen this cheesy Bigfoot contest or costume on there, and I thought I got to have that. That is just fun. So I got it, and I donned it, and I didn't think nothing about it. It was a holiday weekend, 4th of July.
Oh.
So behind me is a lazy river.
Mhm.
And behind that lazy river, all the people go up and they get in the inner tubes and come by with the koozies and their cold drinks and a lot of them beer. So they lit by the time they get out of the park. Time they got down to me, they were fried. And you hear radios floating by, and on the other side is cabins. So I snuck back there, and I'm standing on the bank. I got on the Bigfoot costume, and I'm thick. You can see me. I'm broad. I'm thick, and I thought I'm going to play me a funny joke just for ha-ha, and people get a good laugh at it. So I went out there, and I'm leaning up against a tree. Here they come. I thought, oh, I got me some fun going now. So I didn't do nothing. I just leaned up against a tree. They were floating down through there, and they see me, and I went. That's all I did. I made out a big grunt. Well, one of them drunks see me, and he went. He went running. He looked like Jesus walking on the water. I swear to God. The guy was walking on the water. He got over into these people's yard, right? They're having a picnic, right, with barbecue grill, and every drunk there was like a big wave of drunks with nothing but empty inner tubes passing me. Koozies, beer coolers. So I snuck back in the restaurant. All the cooks, I'm going to sneak in the back door. It was called AJ's Hearth and Kettle, but we called it the beef barn then. So I sneak through the back door, and all my cooks, they're losing it. They're all laughing at ha-ha because like close up, this thing is ridiculous looking.
Yeah.
But now 15 feet off, I'm telling you what, and if you ain't expecting it, make a believer pretty quick. But anyway, so I thought, I'm going to do some marketing here. I'm going to do some Bigfoot marketing and market me some Bigfoot stuff, and made me some T-shirts, and I made up a logo said Townsend, Bigfoot capital of Tennessee. Because I'm a businessman. I want to do some business, right?
Yeah.
Now, I do believe in Bigfoot, and I've seen Bigfoot. So to me, it wasn't no big deal. It's just,
Right.
This guy come in and eat that big burger one time. He said he'd been held up in the hollows up there at Cades Cove for 2 weeks and was nearly starved to death. And he was probably 140 pounds dripping wet. He come in and he eat the burger, the fries, and a pitcher of drinks. I kid you not.
Jeez.
Only 2 people ever did it. But he claimed a Squatch, and that's what gave me the idea to get that suit. And I said, well, I didn't think about it. So about 3 weeks later, there's a truck pulls up in my driveway there at the restaurant, says Finding Bigfoot.
Oh, no.
And they got UPVs and stuff. And
Oh.
they got all this gear, and I'm thinking, oh, crap, did I do that? I'm in trouble.
So you basically started the Bigfoot in town.
Accidentally, but now that young man really saw him,
Yeah.
and he was absolutely terrified. You could tell he actually had an experience. He saw something, but
It's a
Mark
fun
kind of
episode.
run with it. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, but there was really a Squatch there,
Yeah.
but it didn't get attention until he.
That's amazing.
Until I brought out the old Timu suit. Of course, it wasn't Timu at that time, but it was. I think I still have it, by the way. But it was all in good fun.
Yeah.
But now I'm telling you what, I sold a bunch of cold drinks and French fries, and them kids that come pouring out of that water, they all come in and got something to eat. And I was like, chee. But anyway, that might be why you have a Bigfoot festival in Townsend, Tennessee, to be honest. But I have seen it on several occasions, become a believer very early on in my culture because we refer to it as a Tsukalu. And being of Chaligi or Cherokee stock, to us, it was just a natural part of the world. I have a great deal of respect for the things. And the first event happened with that same dad that drove the truck. So one of these days, I'll write his life story, and I think it'd be a good read.
Yeah.
It would.
He
Even
got
your life story.
He got into so many more adventures we ain't even touched on. But the guy, so he liked to fish. He was an outdoorsman. There's two famous fishermen that owe their careers to him. They would pay him to go catch big fish, and then they would hook them on their hooks, and he'd spend a week at the lake fishing. They'd spend about 5 hours with the show, reeling in the fish he had already caught. But another story. So Pat, he'd go out and he'd go fishing. So we go to Ohio. We're in southern Ohio. We're fishing out in the middle of farm ponds, big farm ponds. So we got one of those cars with wood paneling on the side that they hadn't taken out of the crate yet. It's one of the big station wagons, 73 Caprice, I think it was. So we're laying there, and Mom and me got tired because he would fish until the cows come home. And you're tired. You're like, oh, 2.5 hours of this stuff's enough, buddy. So he's there 6 hours, and we're still there. And so we go back to the car and take a nap. The windows are down. And above the car is what we call a fox grape. It's a little bitty grape, very, very tart, but they make great jelly. I mean, when we're all hillbilly canners, so we can and make stuff. So Mom's like, when we wake up, we're going to get up on top of the car and pick him grapes because they's way up there. And so we went to sleep. So we slept for I don't know how long, and it was hot. You know, we had the windows down partially, and we hear this blood-curdling scream, bellow. I don't know what you'd call it, but it wake the dead. Sure enough, woke us up. You never seen car windows go up that fast, and they wasn't electric. They was old crank style, boy. I swear we wore it out. But we got that thing locked down. It wasn't no time. Here come my dad, and he had no shirt on. Okay. Now, he liked to go out with no shirt on, but he never would leave his shirt, you know. And so here he come shuffling up the bank with one fishing pole in his hand. He had 3. He had a tackle box when he went, and he had a big stringer full of fish. Dad would eat his fish.
Yeah.
I had to gut them and skin them, and yeah, I have cut so many fish up, it's unbelievable. But anyway, so he comes shuffling back up the bank, jumps in the car, and he's as white as a sheet. He comes peeling out of there, and we literally tore the mufflers off the car getting out of that logging road, getting out of there. And I mean, he was sideways. And you seen Fast and Furious?
Yeah.
Well, he must have invented it. I promise you, I've never drove like that. It looked like Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah. Yeah, he come out of there sideways. So we get into civilization. There's a little store, farm store down there, and it's like a mom and pop's little, you know, convenience store. And he stops and he goes in and he's talking to them people. He said, I'm sorry I ain't got a shirt on. And he said, I got to explain what happened. And he said he was on, now, mind you, we were on the side Sasquatch was on, and there was a road that come up by the pond. He was on the backside. So he said that he was sitting there fishing. He said it come down to the water. Was Sasquatch started washing its hands and washing his face and its hands. It was playing in the water a little bit. And he said it scared him something awful. He said, I just reached down, took my pocket knife and cut my fishing stringer loose to turn them fish loose. And he cut his fishing line. Well, he kept sneaking around the bank. And he said it raised up and it looked at him. And it's when it let out its war hoot when it seen him. And I guess he took off running. And he said he could hear it moving around, but he couldn't tell whether it was right after him or not. But he come down, he was running. I'll tell you what, the Olympians would have had something on him that day. He was moving on their little short legs. But here he come, and he hopped in the car. But he claimed he seen the Bigfoot. Now, we did not see it. So, you know, so then, you know, there's this movie that came out, and, you know, he's telling us, we got to watch this movie. This is what I seen. And so it was called Boggy Creek, The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so then I get a book by, I think, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was an old book on Bigfoot. But the Boggy Creek, yeah. But it was about the first Bigfoot, you know, I guess film or whatever. And then then I seen the Boggy Creek, and it's like, you know, so nothing ever after that till we moved to Tennessee. And then everything changed because they literally moved me from the city to Deliverance. And I do mean Deliverance. I mean, I had a 6-foot hillbilly chewing tobacco in 6th grade with a mustache.
Oh,
wanting to whip me. Anyway, I made it, fortunately, but I spent a lot of time in the woods because I was an outcast.
Yeah.
And I'd learned a lot of Cherokee ways from my grandparents and family, and I spent more time in the woods. But, you know, having occurrences through the years, I've gotten a distinct understanding and appreciation of them. I've been asleep on 2 occasions, had them close to me when I was sleeping, that if they had been violent or wanted to take me out would have been easy. Once when I was a kid, and once when I bought 12 years ago this farm in Sweetwater. And the one in Sweetwater actually went down and took a tape measure to measure where it was standing against the tree. And I'd fell asleep in the fence row. I was putting a fence up the creek, keep the cows out of the creek, keep it clean, And it measured off right. If it wasn't 8 foot, it was right at it. So now this is the same farm that we have in later years have recorded multiple 21-inch footprints, 21 inches long.
Wow.
So I mean that's huge.
Yeah.
And I've never, with a tract that big, that's something.
Yeah.
And not just me have seen it over the years. The farm that we had in Crossville, we had a family of them actually up there. I could give you probably 20, 30 people that have seen one because of being around us. But I don't think that there's anything about us that makes us special. It's just that we're more in tune with it. If you've hunt herbs in the woods, you'll understand that if you go to a hotel, I'll give you an example, and you got a dirty hotel room, then you find something that's not in a hotel room that's not supposed to be. You find a dirty sock or something. Then you're going to look for every flaw in that motel room. Okay. Well, it's the same thing with paranormal, with supernatural or Sasquatch, even deer hunting. You go with the deer hunting, he'll spot a deer that most people can't even begin to see. He's going to look, there's deer right there. Or you get with an old hillbilly like me, I'm down in the woods and I see ginseng. I'm like, there's some sang. It's way down the hill.
Yeah.
But, we can see it because we're tuned in and alert to it.
Yeah.
But we're the same with a Squatch. You can see, smell, the signs, and then you get a basic understanding after time of their habits. I mean, I may actually write a book in the future about things that I've experienced with for example, my pawpaw trees. I'm going to tell you about those. Those are good.
Plus, can we do that after the break?
Sure.
We'll talk. It's time to take a break because I want to get
an
it
hour. Can you
right
believe
with
it? How fast it goes? It goes so quick, doesn't it?
Very fast.
Yeah. If you don't care, we'll take a quick break because we have to do an hour for the radio show, and I want to try to get it as easy as I can for me.
Yeah,
But
for the radio
when I cut it. But when we come back, we will talk about your farm. Tell us the name and what you do, and I do have pictures of the prints that we're going to show. We need to put them up on the big TV too for him to see.
And I'll get the phone ready.
Okay,
so we can do the phone.
All right, so we will be back right after this 6-minute break.
6 minute, 1 second.
All right.
What if the world we know is merely a fraction of reality? What if there are forces, entities, and phenomena that exist just beyond our comprehension in the shadows of the unknown? Welcome to Paranormal 411, your gateway to the unexplained and the downright chilling. Imagine, if you will, a quiet, sleepy town tucked away from the hustle and bustle of the city. The locals tell tales of a house atop a hill where strange lights flicker and eerie sounds echo in the dead of night. Some say it's haunted, others claim it's a portal to another realm. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain, those who venture there are never quite the same. Or picture this, a clear, starry night in the heart of the desert. Suddenly a blinding flash cuts across the sky, a craft of unknown origin moving at impossible speeds. It hovers, then vanishes, leaving only questions and a sense of awe. Could it be visitors from another world, or perhaps a secret government project? These stories, these encounters with the unknown, are what we love here at Paranormal 411. Our mission? To explore the unexplored, to question the unquestioned, and to shine a light into the darkest corners of the paranormal. We've journeyed through haunted houses and UFO sightings, and into the mysteries of cryptids and psychic phenomena, and pondered the existence of other dimensions. And yet, there is so much more to discover. Paranormal 411 is your guide to the unexplained and the extraordinary. Here we talk about the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of our world, from haunted houses and UFO sightings to cryptids and psychic phenomena. We love to question, to explore, and to understand the unknown. There's a world of mystery out there just waiting to be discovered. So why not join us on this journey into the unknown? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a part of the Paranormal 411 community. Together, we can uncover the secrets that the universe holds. Welcome to Paranormal 411. Your journey into the unknown starts here. Join us.
In the heart of Madisonville, Tennessee, lies a pizzeria like no other. Step through the door of Legends and Lore Pizzeria and be transported to a realm where paranormal and cryptid encounters, along with mouth-watering pizza, go hand in hand. Meet Eddie and his crew, who serve up slices of the supernatural along with the best pies in town. With the walls adorned with eerie artifacts, indulge in piping hot slices that melt in your mouth and tease your taste buds. And it's not just the locals who love the incredible pizza. Legends and Lore has been selected as the best pizza joint in all of Monroe County. As lovers of everything pizza and the paranormal, the owners have mastered the art of crafting unforgettable combinations that will leave you wanting more. To stay connected with this mystical eatery, follow Legends and Lore Pizzeria on Facebook, where tales of their latest creations and upcoming specials will be shared. Make sure to browse their custom menu, featuring legendary pizzas like the Chupacabra Ranch and the Exorcist. So, whether you have an appetite for the supernatural or simply seek the best pizza in town, Legends and Lore is the place to be. Come for the unforgettable flavors, stay for the captivating stories, and find yourself in a world where legends and pizza collide.
Get ready to rock with the electrifying sound of Catalyst, a band that's sure to leave you wanting more. With their powerful lyrics and killer riffs, Catalyst is a great sound in the world of rock music. You can listen and find Catalyst on Bandcamp, or go to the link at paranormal411.org and click on their banner.
All right, we are back.
We're back.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Colonel Mark Nightwolf Brown and Barbara Edwards about his experiences, his amazing experiences.
Yeah, tons of them.
Yes.
Do multiple shows.
He could write 3, 4, 5 books.
Okay, he's like, yep.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So we left off about your farm. So if you want to,
Yeah, the eco farm in Sweetwater. We're a organic fruit produce farm. We raise beef cattle, free range eggs, and we're these natural people. So everything's done non-GMO, grass-fed, no chemicals. Like nature intended.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We've got chickens. We've got like 40 chickens, I think.
Yeah, we got chicken math early on.
I know ours started out with 6.
I'm trying to get
Started.
David to put a chicken cam out there so we can broadcast it when we're doing the show.
It would be fun.
It would.
People broadcast a lot crazier stuff. I
Hey,
promise.
let's
you.
go
It's
to the chicken
entertaining.
cam.
I do have a chicken cam, but not one that we could get to on the computers, I don't think.
Okay.
Throw in some watermelon and
Yeah. Or they really like pumpkins.
oh yeah.
We had
Oh.
one actually carve us a pumpkin a few years back. You could go in and kind of just scratch on the outside some eyes and mouth and stuff,
Mhm.
and they'll actually peck it out
And make it
and make the pumpkin. Yeah.
Oh, they're definitely carnivore. They fell a long way down that DNA chain from the Tyrannosaurus
Yes.
Rex. But if you look at those little eyeballs,
Uh-huh.
because they got a scary looking eyeball.
Especially
and if
the
you
ones that
see
are
how They
red.
act, yes, the orangish red ones,
Yes.
and you see how they act in a pack, you know what the old Tyrannosaur acted like.
Yeah.
Especially
And I'm
when they
telling
go,
Oh yeah,
that eyeball.
yeah, they look at you. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Where me and wife always make a joke on that. They're like, I'm gonna look at you with my good eye. Yeah.
It gets worse when you
Yeah.
get turkeys.
Yeah.
Because turkeys are problem-solving intelligence. So when you free range them, you run into problems. So here you are, you're working hard, and you got your bologna sandwich, and you ain't paying no attention. And guess who has your bologna sandwich and is gone? The turkey will come up and steal your sandwich and take off. It's a funny thing. But we, Chaligi, actually had kept turkeys since as far back as they found the fossil record. There's actually records going back, 13,000 plus years. I mean, they found remains here going back 21,000 that they don't want to disclose.
We're only what? How old's the Earth?
Well, if you go from literalist, 6,000 years is
Yeah,
all the
that's
Earth
crazy.
is, and I'm like, yeah, okay, get out of here with that.
I'm thinking about 485,000. I think is probably a good number.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the carbon dating has already been proved impossible. But when they look at things like when you find dinosaur tracks that have human tracks in them,
Mm-hmm.
so either Captain Caveman was running from the dinosaur, which I would be too, or he was getting out of Dodge while they were going the other way.
Right.
So it's definitely they had human interactions.
Yes.
Look at dragons.
Yes.
Most world cultures have references, and that's just a dinosaur. I mean, who we kidding?
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot to be, and like every legend does have some basis in reality. Well, we've got the fossil record.
Yes.
Yeah.
We see that there was things that were alive. I mean, they had a tiger that lived here. Was found one in the Lost Sea down here.
Yep.
13-foot long Similodian saber-toothed cat.
Hmm.
Well, I'm talking. You got a 13-foot long cat. And you think cat ain't tough. You try to give a cat a flea bath in a 5-gallon bucket of water. You find out how tough a cat is. He'll give you a whipping.
Yeah. Really quick.
Can you imagine a 13-foot long cat? No, we were on the menu. So,
yes. For sure.
So it's not been that. And my grandmother, she was Chaligi. She talked about buffalo being wild here in Tennessee when she was a little girl. Well, that's not been 100 years ago.
Right.
So if you had bison, she said they were a little bit smaller than the ones on the plains because they didn't get as much to eat with the pasture, but they were bison here.
Yes.
When you look at, we had bobcat, we had cougar, bear, wild hogs, and people.
Well, the fossil record even shows horses too.
Yeah.
That were native to the Americas.
Yeah, I think the big strain of horses come over with DeSoto in 1540,
Yep.
and he met my 8th great grandfather Motoy of Tellico, the Cherokee Emperor. So left horses with him and some gold, Aztec gold. Story for another day. But there's 13 wagon loads of gold buried in Tennessee coming from the Aztecs.
I've heard of people looking for that.
I know where it's at.
Yeah.
I might be the last person to know where it's at, but I don't want it exploited for financial gain. I know it would make me very wealthy, but I would rather see it if we did an expedition to find it. It would be under the premises that half of it would go in a museum here, and half of it would go back down to the Aztec peoples to establish a museum to show the greatness of their heritage and culture. I think that would be fair.
Right.
Share it that way for future generations to be able to study, and I think that's going to show us too a lot of those creatures, like the Ukana. The Cherokee Ukana is a giant 30-foot snake, has wings. It has horns on its head and it has a diamond in its head that has magical properties. Well, that's the same creature they call a tie snake in the northern tribes. It's called water snakes in other parts of the country, but it ain't a water snake like you're used to. We're talking about a giant thing. And that's part of the 3 species of legend that's synonymous with every native tribe, every indigenous people. They all have a legends of a giant snake. They all have legends of a giant bird, which we'd call a thunderbird, a pequot. In the Chiligi, we call it the mystic hawks. There were 2 of them. That was denoted. Daniel Boone even wrote about them down on the Ocoee and the Hiwassee. So, I mean, these things existed, obviously. But the one other common premise is that Sasquatch. So, getting back to the farm issue with the Tsukalu, I own the Eco Farm in Sweetwater. It's an organic farm, and it backs up to a lot of swampland and about a 50-acre lake that was built by the Army Corps of Engineers. There's a lot of ridges that interconnect through large passages of woods that go clear up to the Cherokee National Forest. So there's a lot of passages where something can burst to get to the Cherokee National Forest, and you're looking at the Cherokee National Forest is 640,000 acres. So that is an absolutely huge park. It's bigger than the Smokies. Smokies is another huge park, and it hooks right to it. And then you've got 3 or 4 other big parks that hook onto that. You've got one in North Carolina. You've got one in Georgia. So you've got hundreds of thousands of acres where people don't travel. And of course, when you have an ecosphere of that size, then you have variety for food, for a food source, and for habitation. An intelligent species like the Tsukalu, he takes pretty advantage of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know, did you get those footprints?
I did.
Oh.
I did. Do you want to show them now?
Yeah. Well, we're on the farm, and that's where they were taken.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is the 21-inch footprints.
Randy's like, I want to go hunting.
I think the first ones that we got actual photos of was in 2018. And then we've got, he was a 21-inch track. And then, and there was several, so it wasn't one single track. You got to understand, where I live in Sweetwater, it's kind of wet. And so that red clay gets wet and it'll stay wet, and the wind blows it off pretty fast. But quickly after rain, you get where you can find tracks. And so we found them in 2018. We found them before that. We just never was smart enough to take a picture. But this, in the picture, I've got on the blue shoe, the blue and white. That's Barbara in the green there. But that's my my daughter's ex-boyfriend. And he wears a size 13. So there's a size 13 and a size 12 right next to a big, ginormous footprint. Now, the scary part to this story is that my daughter and son decided to come home. So they put them tiny houses on the farm, 2 40-foot buildings. And so one night, something goes out there and starts beating on the tiny buildings. And so I've got grandbabies down there. So Papa, you can see the pistol on my side there. So Papa thought he just gonna go down there. I thought it was somebody, maybe a crackhead come up or something. I'm gonna spook him off.
Right.
Never thought about it being old Tsukalu. So I go down there, and the boy 6'4" that come out with me, and that was her boyfriend. And we passed through the field, and I wasn't paying no attention, and I passed what I thought was a black pine tree, but I didn't think about there's no pine trees in the middle of my field. But there was that night what I thought was a pine tree. It wasn't a pine tree, it was Tsukalu. And we passed, he came right in behind us and walked up through the mud passageway between two fields. And you can see there's my shoe, and that's my 45 Ruger P97 DC, a pistol. So you kind of get the scale of him. He was a big feller.
See the
You can almost see the toes.
toes. You can see the toes. Yeah, the sagittal.
They actually got a different. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes when he gets into red clay and it's a little thicker, you can actually see the little serrations like on your fingerprints on the things.
Oh yeah.
And it's the way
the dermal ridges you can see.
Yeah, you see how you see the lines in my hand. Sometimes you'll find lines going across the foot that way, because apparently its foot is not made like mine and yours. Its foot is apparently made differently.
Yep. You can see it, yeah, where he's showing right there. You can,
yeah. Well, it was pretty swampy and muddy right there, but that's hard clay that's been stomped by 1,500-pound Simmental cows, and literally his track is going in as deep as a big Simmental cow. Of course, he was probably moving at some speed, but you've got an animal that weighs, I'd say you're looking at an 800-pound animal at the very least on these things. So the weight is a lot. People says, oh, well, 200 pounds. Now I'm a biggin myself. I'm 300 pounds because, but I don't hold a light to these things.
Right.
And if you could think about the strength involved,
right,
and and how fast and agile they are, we don't have any way to quantify, meeting them in physical strength.
right.
So we're at their mercy. We live, basically, think about this. They were probably here before us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're in their home.
Yep.
And that's why
I believe that.
anybody listening, if you do decide to go and investigate a Bigfoot, or to find a Sasquatch, or you hear of one, don't bother him. I mean, if you want to be respectful, don't be like these people jumping the fence at Cades Cove and getting in the face of a bear with a camera. It's kind of like the people with the buffalo out in Yellowstone. When that buffalo throws you in the air, I'm going to be laughing.
Yep.
Because probably the video will be on the internet.
Yep.
Randy says, he's in the chat room, he said he forgot his shoes because he's a big boy. Randy is like 6'8".
6'8". I've got cousins like that in Kentucky.
I have a cousin in
several
Crossville.
7-footers.
My cousin in Crossville's like 6'8".
Okay. Yeah.
So what size shoe does he wear?
I think it's like a 16 or something like that. He has to get his shoes specially made.
21 is huge.
Yeah.
Gotta be big.
21 inches.
Yeah.
So whatever that equates to in a size, that just blows and it's wide too. So their feet are wide, but we found the same size footprint in 2018 and again in 2023. So, I mean, that was last year.
Right.
But now apparently it comes through twice a year on our farm. The best we can discern. It comes through once in the spring and once toward the end of summer, back when the pawpaw are ripe. And so I'm probably speaking Greek when I say pawpaw. So there is an indigenous banana in Tennessee that is native to Appalachia called the pawpaw tree. And the pawpaw has a little 3-inch long banana. The leaves do look like a banana tree because they are in the same species. It is banana. And it tastes like vanilla custard. Well, these things will grow way up in the trees. And I was looking so forward because I'm an herbalist. So I gather these things and I like propagating rare species. So I gather the pawpaws because I'm, number one, I'm going to eat them because I'm fat. Number two, because the big seeds in the pawpaw. I mean, they're huge. They're like big as your fingernail. Big brown seeds. Yeah, and animals will eat them, and crap them out, and the seeds are still whole. You can get them and plant them. So that's how the pawpaw actually gets spread. So I always look forward to get my pawpaws. I never get them. And I'll give you one clue as to what does get them. Something that can reach 12 feet up into a tree, snap off limbs the size of my wrist like a twig, and bend them limbs down and get them pawpaws off that tree.
Wow.
So about every year I miss out on my pawpaws, and I know he's going to be down there. So when he does, I'll just let him go.
We don't fight him.
We don't fight him for the pawpaws because he was here before us. So if there's a few pawpaws, I'm happy with a few seeds.
Yeah.
So I get a few seeds. I'm happy camper. So let him have the pawpaws. I'll plant him some more before it's over.
That's interesting.
It is.
It's obviously in their diet.
Yeah.
So that they have a diverse diet of it.
The day he come through, we have a very large barn, and of course condensation. He had put his hand on the barn. My phone unfortunately died before I get a picture of the handprint. But I'm 5'9". I'm tall for a girl. Steven's 6'4". We were jumping up just to see if we could reach anywhere near his height. And you could tell just, it wasn't smeared or anything. He had just laid his hand on it, but we couldn't touch it. We could not jump up high enough to touch anywhere near close to where that handprint was.
That's interesting.
He's a big creature.
Now, do you think that these things roam around? So they have kind of like how the indigenous people, I have a theory that they were kind of like the indigenous people of the time, where they had summer places that they went because that's where everything was. And then they had places they went in the wintertime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I very much believe that. I've found on the farm of Crossville, I had a friend named Jason Tanner, him and his wife Pam. Well, they never believed in any of this Bigfoot stuff, and they had a little girl named Erica. And Erica's grown. She went to school, and everybody's real proud of her. Graduated, got an advanced degree. But Jason was the cable guy. So he was always driving his old big cable truck. And so they come over, and they's talking to me and my mom and my dad and my ex-wife. And so we look and we see one in the garden back behind the house. And I'm thinking, okay, because Jason's there, this might be a joke. So I thought maybe somebody got the Temu Bigfoot suit, but this is long before that ever occurred. So I'm thinking maybe somebody rigged up a big, because he's a practical joker. And I'm thinking, okay, so Jason's playing a joke on me, but I'm gonna call his bluff because I didn't think at that time it was I'd seen him, but I didn't think it was one up that close to the house. So I go in the house, I got a single shot shotgun, deer slugs. Ooh. So I load that booger with some deer slugs, and I'm telling you what, I had hollow point deer slugs, so it'd tear a good hole when it come out. So I go down through there, and I'm playing Barney Bad Butt. So I got my shotgun, and boy, I'm gonna get him. So I go running down through there. I went running after it, and it steps over a 4-foot fence like it wasn't nothing. You ever seen The Big Show or one of those big Andre the Giant getting in the ring? It stepped over it, dude, at speed. and it was in the brambles. So this was all grown up in the brambles because Crossville, when you got the brambles, it's thick.
Yes.
So he went through it like it wasn't nothing. He went down into a little black pine forest, right? So he gets down there, and so I went in there after it. And then I realized about when I get into this forest that, hey, wait a minute, that can't be a person that just stepped over a 4-foot fence that I had trouble getting over, right? So I'm down there, and so I get there, and it turns. And some of those black forest, I'm talking about with them black pines, it'll be daylight. You walk in it, it's dark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dark. So I'm in this little tight, confined little black pine forest, and I hear, Now, the same sound kind of I made with a Bigfoot later on, the Bigfoot suit downtown. But something let out a sound, and the hair on my neck stood up, and I says, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. And my butt went shuffling back to the house. About that time, Pam and Jason was ready to go. He had to peel them out of the floorboard of the truck. And Pam, if you're listening, you're going to get a good laugh because you know it's true. You're going to deny it, but it's true. So he peeled her out of the floorboard, got Erica out of the floorboard, got back in his big cable truck, and away they went. Well, Mom and Dad went back in the house. And ever after that, the grass would grow up big back there. You'd find big wallowed out spots. And you'll find that with a deer sometimes. They'll make up, but these are way too big for a deer. So they were up sleeping behind my parents' shack
Oh,
in the weeds, and it was more than one. There was at least three. And they had built a shelter back down, dropped off a little bluff, and they had taken trees and piled them up and made a shelter. I mean, it was a shelter. You could tell it was made to be I don't know that it was weatherproof, but it was certainly intelligently created.
right.
But this is not something a human could have done. These were broke off. So anything has that kind of power, it's going to break them things off. Build him a little house at the back of your house. You're going to leave him alone.
Let him stay.
Let him stay. Yeah. Never could convince it to come in the house, though. That
No.
would have been cool. But I don't think it would have fit, to be honest. They had short ceilings.
The first Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely inspiring. You see one, it'll put the fear of God in you real fast, number one, because it'll put you in your place in the food chain. You understand that this is a far more dominant species than us physically. So the first times you see it, it'll scare you, and it'll exhilarate you at the same time, because after you see it once, you want to have another experience, because you're the whole time, the first time you ever see one, you're going to question yourself, your reality, your sense of reality, and I know, and I've worked in the past. I've also worked for a couple years while I was going to school. I worked at a psych hospital called Peninsula Behavioral Health.
Oh,
And it was the crazy house, literally.
yes.
And I ain't kidding. So I worked at nighttime. So, I got to deal with them when they get up and on the bad side of things. But these things scared me far worse than any crazy person. And, we had all sorts, and they all come in with police car over there, every single one of them. So, and they can't help being sick. You understand that when you're in that field. But honestly, I felt like I would have been put in that place if I had explained some of these events to people, and if you haven't seen it, you probably think I'm crazy.
Mhm.
And if you do, then you're entitled to that. But I promise you, one
Yep.
one experience will change your life.
Yep.
I promise you. Then you're going to start questioning other things, kind of like that dirty hotel room, right?
Right.
You find that sock, guess what? Everything else fair game. You're going to find the hairs in the tub. You're going to find everything.
Yeah, I've had an experience. I've actually saw Bigfoot driving while I was driving truck.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to let
He's in the
Barbara,
Pacific Northwest out in Washington.
I'm going to let Barbara tell you about her little dog. This will get you. You'll like this.
I have a little service animal. Her name was Nellie. She passed away here a few years ago. But I'd always walk her off lead. All I have to do, I'd open the door. Of course, she was very obedient and trained. She'd go off the porch. I'd stand on the porch and she'd use the restroom and come back up the steps, go in the house. So I opened the door one night and I let her out, and she got to just the edge of the porch and stopped and was like looking around, And next thing I know, she turned around, bolted, and ran right back and passed me back in the house. She didn't get off them steps. And then I was like, Nellie, and then I heard this whoop sound like you hear these Bigfoot recordings.
Yes.
And it was magnified. It sounded like it was just right off the corner of my house. Well, apparently it was more afraid of us than and she knew it was there. I didn't even see it. I didn't hear nothing. It must have just been standing there watching me.
Yeah.
She didn't want any part of it. So she bolted and it hollered. And as it ran away, it was running toward that 50-acre pond that's back there, 50-acre lake. The Army Corps engineers, there's no entrance into the lake. When they build it, they didn't build any access roads and no easement. So you can't actually get to it unless you go through our fields and go through the woods to get back to it. We can't even get back there unless you want to trample through a lot of brush and different things.
Go through the Sasquatch house.
But it screamed and it ran and hollered the entire way. And you could hear it just screaming, kept screaming because it was terrified. So it must have been a young one.
Yeah.
But that was my very first experience here. And I'm from West Virginia. And I was telling Jason, I've heard bear, I've heard mountain lions. I used to have a bobcat that I had raised, and just different kind of deers, how they'll do the snorting and different
Yes.
things, and wild hogs. that was a sound I had never ever heard before.
Right.
And I would try to help, rescue wildlife rehabber and different things like that. But that sound was just unique. I mean, there was nothing that I have ever heard. And then after that, I had seen it, but it was just terrified, And it acted like it was more scared. So I'm thinking, I don't know what that is. I come in the house. I told Mark, I said, Mark, don't think I'm crazy, but I think a Sasquatch was just by the house and hollered. And he said, what do you mean? And there was a real faint smell, like a skunk. It was not a polecat skunk or anything like that, but it had that kind of musky, nasty kind of odor.
I've had that
you
out
could
here.
smell. And you could tell it's not a skunk. And it wasn't because it had been a skunk, there'd been really fresh sprayed. But I'm like, and he's like, you just heard a squatch. And I'm like, no way. And I was always I can't really say that I was skeptical,
Right.
but I'm just type of person. I want you to show me.
Yeah.
I didn't disbelieve it, but I didn't believe it either. I would actually poke fun at people and say they seen Sasquatch. I'd be like, oh yeah, right.
Whatever.
But now if you say I've seen Sasquatch, I'm like, yeah, you probably did.
Yeah.
Because I have too now and seen him several times after that. We was actually here, what was it, a week or two ago on the Forestry Road between here and North Carolina going toward Murphy.
It was on Joe Brown Highway.
And saw one
And it's
on the
just a
Forestry Road.
going in Murphy.
Okay.
So
From
they're
Cobra
very
Creek to
active.
Murphy.
No
Okay.
houses, cars, anything like that. But it was up on the bank and he slowed down because we had my Jeep. He slowed down. He's like, there's a squatch up there. And it must have known we was watching it because it kind of froze. It didn't want to move.
Mhm.
And then it was getting out of Dodge. Because he moved. Yeah,
Really?
it actually
down,
got hunkered down when we seen it.
You don't see me.
He did his best,
You
John
don't see
Cena.
So Salem in the chat, she said, you've obviously heard one making sounds, but have you ever recorded it? Do you have any recordings?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I will have to check and see because we were all down by the pond one day and one was going off and you could hear it in the background. It wasn't like super plain, but you could tell it was something unconventional. And if you've been in the woods, you'll understand that there's lots of different sounds. Most of it's explainable. The sounds that really scares people the most that's not experienced backcountry people would be a screech owl or a fox.
Fox.
And they make some sounds that'll scare you pretty
Sound
bad.
like women screaming.
Yeah,
Some of them do.
yeah,
Yeah.
they scare you. But now tree knock and a squatch call is completely something different. But
Yep.
my next part of I guess the investigation, because I would like to prove more of its existence,
Mhm.
is that I have bought a box of plaster of Paris. And so I have never cast any kind of footprints, but I've seen it done on TV.
Yes.
So I figure if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
So I intend to but I do have a jar somewhere that has some hair that I found in the fence. Now, those of us who have had black horses, everybody says, oh, you got a black horse. I had a Tennessee Walker.
Mhm.
She's as black as coal. But in the summertime, she get a little red tinge to her.
Right.
And
But
so
you get
people with
bleached
black
out.
horses keep their black horses up in the day.
Yeah.
You keep them from fading out, just like your hair. You'll get blonde tips or red tips on your hair.
Yep.
Same thing. So I found these long hairs hanging in the fence. Kind of looked more human than anything, but it was long.
Yeah.
But it was dark at the roots and it was reddish at the ends. But it stunk. It smelled like that funk smell. So that's why I put it in a jar. Because I want to preserve the smell and all. But somewhere I've got to find that jar. I'd love to send it off just to see what it is, because if I've got some kind of hobo living back there, I'd love to know.
Right.
But I don't think hobo's going to be living in there with what's in there.
Right.
So I
Well-
definitely think it's something. I think that it's something more, I would like to get some cameras. I think one of the fun things would be to do in
Say around those
in
pawpaw
retrospect,
trees when
exactly.
they're
Exactly. Get some infrared cameras and mount them.
yeah.
Just to see him when he gets into my pawpaws. If nothing else, that year I might get some pawpaws.
Maybe
If he can detect it, I might get a pawpaw that year.
Maybe.
But I think it would be fun to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think that way we're really hurting him.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I wouldn't want to hurt any of them,
Right.
plural. They're a species.
Right.
There may be them more than one type. I have seen young. I have seen, adults. The males are definitely bigger than the females. In some parts of the animal kingdom, it's not the case, but in the Squatch, it is. It's like a human.
Right.
Human males are usually physically bigger and physically stronger.
Yeah.
But still, the females at 7 foot,
Right.
that's above my pay grade. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm out. I'm not gonna mess with it. But now I'm interested with it.
Yeah.
I think that if it felt me as less enough of a threat to have been so close to me that it could have hurt me several times, it did not. The one in the thicket that could have killed me easily did not. I think you really have to do something to quantify a reaction of that level. And I think people do. People are stupid. Just like, remember I said we had buffalo here and bobcats and all that's dead now because people got to kill everything they don't understand.
Yep.
Just like if a UFO landed tomorrow and it landed, in Sweetwater, my town, the first thing happened would be a redneck jump out with a shotgun. Ow! Boom! And start an intergalactic war because he don't understand what this thing is. And I'm sure if he traveled that far, we ain't got a chance.
Nope.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
I think our government even says that though.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah.
Well, that Sasquatch really didn't find us a threat, but when they was knocking on his son and them's cabin down there, our house, we have 20 acres. So our house is kind of up at the front of the property near the road. And then we have all this field and the barns. We have 2 ponds. The pawpaws are behind that. Well, when they put their buildings in, they put them down there on that side of the farm where the Sasquatch hangs out,
Oh.
down by the buildings. So they were scared to death.
Wasn't on purpose.
And all we had to do, is, say Sasquatch, and our grandkids was terrified. We had them dive underneath the time because he said Sasquatch because they wanted to walk across the field. We didn't let them walk alone across the field
Right.
because we've had a black bear there, we've had the Squatch there, and we don't know how it's going to react or what it's going to do. It knew that we wasn't going to bother. It's been through several times now. We're not going to harass it.
Right.
But it was not happy about them. It was almost like it's that end of the farm is theirs.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be here. They were not happy
Right.
about him. And then Stephen's first reaction, he come out with a gun,
Yeah.
shooting off 22, and evident. And I'm thinking that's when the handprint went on the barn, and it was like, okay, buddy,
Yeah.
you want to do this right now,
Sizing it up.
sizing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have, but congratulations. We do have a lot of new believers.
Yeah.
Those 2 storage buildings held 5 kids and 3 adults. And so I promise you that every single one of them are now firm believers because of their experience. But I think that also they're starting to build a healthy, respect for it. And as a species, I think they should be protected.
Yeah.
Washington State actually protects them. It's
Yes.
illegal to hunt one in Washington State, and I think it
Yeah.
should be done in every state.
I think British Columbia also has some laws against
Laws
it
to
too.
protect,
Yeah.
I think it should be.
I don't think
Yeah.
they should have to be killed
Right.
to prove their existence. I think that would be wrong. I think there's other ways you can investigate, like they've done with other species.
There is, and they're starting to do a lot of eDNA now. So they're getting it out of the environment. So they're taking possible bedding sites and collecting evidence and trying to get DNA out of that. They're doing eDNA from water sources because skin cells, epithelial
scales, yeah.
They'll set on the waters and stuff. So they'll start doing all that stuff too.
That's fascinating. I would
Yeah.
love to go to Portlock, Alaska.
Oh yeah.
Now, of all the places, if your viewers have never heard of that location, that's a good story to look up. And it is quite
They're very aggressive there. Though. It's like this.
yeah, it's almost like a different species.
Yeah, it's not
You think they might be like just like the indigenous people here, clans,
Yes.
different clans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you've got the Cherokee were the warlords of the South. We were Southern Iroquois, and we came from around the Great Lakes in New York, and we migrated south. Before Columbus, and we were crossing with the Vikings. Our DNA proves that. So you notice Cherokee are all built very like me and him. We're built we're built broad-shouldered. Well, a lot of Native Americans are not. They're built narrow. You can put 3 Lakota where you can put 1 Cherokee typically. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
We're just broad people. But that's a genetic trait. But now we migrated and the same with them. So we don't know the contact of the species, let alone the the tribal structure, which I'm sure that they're intelligent enough. There's a tribal structure, definitely. And you have dominance in like this 8-footer. He is definitely the dominant in our area. And he makes a set loop a couple times a year. So he obviously has a migratory path. So we know now that he has some of his diet. We know that he has a migratory path. And we've seen proof of others there. He's definitely the dominant. He's always the one that's the protector up front. He's going to be your first point of contact. He's scary enough you ain't going to want the second one. But yes, I do believe that they're tribal. Definitely.
Salem said something else on there.
Salem said, I spent a year and a half in Collinwood, Tennessee. There are some really dense woods. But personally, I've never had a cryptid experience there.
Yeah.
Where's Collinwood?
Not for sure where Collinwood is.
Western.
I'm not familiar. That sounds like more Western.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand that there's hot spots for these things too. There's this, there's like the missing people, what is it? Missing 411, the guy with the David Pilates.
David Pilates, yep.
Yeah, because he's got hot spots of events that take place with missing people.
Yep.
Well, you can almost categorize in the same thing, and perhaps you're doing this because this might be your area. If not, it's an opportunity. So
yes,
you owe me 10% if you do. I told you I was a businessman.
Right.
But honestly, a map could be put together of people's interactions, and I think something should be coordinated, like MUFON, for example, with cryptid experiences. And I think more people would be able to feel a sense of relaxation in telling their stories, and more scientific data and research be conducted.
Right.
Because you got old hillbilly like me. I got thermal sights.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see through them woods. I promise you.
Yeah.
But I would be more along the lines of taking a camera with the thermal sights. Now, if I'm going to have an MP5 on me, possibly, or a 338 or a 6.5 Creedmoor, definitely.
Yes.
But I'm not going to be displaying that or trying to, it'd be a last resort, absolute last resort,
Right.
And if I did something stupid enough for him to get me, I'm probably just going to throw my hands up and say, I'm done. Do what you will.
Sorry.
I probably can't stop you anyway.
Yeah.
But we're in his home. So people be respectful,
right?
Of and whether you believe or not, and you may not have ever had an experience, and you might not. If you would want to experience, I'm more than glad to help you find your path, and not with my fake suit either. Not with the big, you see them big floppy feet, you're going to get a good laugh. And I might just put it on one day for a fun picture. You can see that it's a fakey dude, but and some people do. There is some chance of people doing, fakey do.
Yeah.
And some people probably do a killer job because we got a lot better technology than we had, during the Gimlin films.
Yes.
But the Gimlin films, it's been proven that human, number one, can't do the same movements at speed
gait and everything.
Correct. There's too much, and when they come out that it had breast,
yes,
you could see the musculature moving it, and you can't do that in that time frame in the 60s.
Well,
the technology,
the Planet of the Apes movie. I mean, that was about the best they had at the time.
Correct. So I mean, that kind of tells you when things can't be faked.
Yeah.
Now you got CGI. You can CGI somebody coming through your woods easy.
Yes.
And really, you have to look at it with a grain of salt because. You may see 20 different recordings, and 5 of them you're going to say, yeah, okay. I've seen some that's like, it's always, why is it always blurry?
Right.
Why is it always blurry? I've got a picture that ain't blurry. I mean, it's not blurry. It's a side shot of this thing, the 8-footer. It's a side shot of his head. It is not blurry. It looks a lot like that Todd Standing stuff.
Really?
Yeah, his is very spot on. And see,
I
the-
love looking at his stuff, but so many
Yeah.
people have tried to just tear him down for what he does, and I'd
Yeah.
like to have him on the show one time.
he would be an interesting person to have.
Yeah.
I'd love to
Yeah.
have a conversation myself
Yeah,
because in our culture, being called Tsukalu means slant-eyed giant.
yeah,
And they do have slightly Asiatic looking features. But if you'll notice, most Native Americans, which you both, I can see it in your eyes, you have Asiatic eyes somewhat. Well, that is from the DNA. You know, when Native Americans, 7 different migrations, the Mongolian was included. So the Mongolians and the Caucasus kept fighting between the Caucasus Mountains
mhm.
and Mongolian steppes, and there was a little valley in between where this white dude and this Mongolian girl said, "Hey, she's good looking." So the rest is history. And
Right.
then you have migrations that occur. But I definitely believe that there's more than one species, and some have more of that exotic look to them than others, and some are more beastly looking than others. So I think that there, from my direct observations alone, I've seen at least 2 species that I can identify that I would think is distinct enough
Right.
that it's not quite the same, but close. But you look at the races of humans.
Yep.
African Americans, for example, I learned in combat diver school, they have 2 extra ligaments in their legs. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so they don't swim very well. Why you don't see very many black Navy SEALs? They don't swim very well.
Hmm.
And it's genetic, but at the same time, they make great athletes that they can jump much better than we can. That's not a coincidence. That's genetics. They
Right.
actually have 2 extra ligaments. So, of course, they're going to be able to jump better than us. They're designed to do that.
Yeah.
That's part of their, where you look at an Eskimo, they have extra body fat,
Yeah.
to insulate from the cold.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that there's diversity within that species that would signify long-term existence and evolution over time to
Right.
adapt.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yes,
If anyone wants to call in, Jason did have the number up there.
I did.
He took it down. But the number is 865-800-3696. Oh,
There you go.
never mind. He put it back up. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think that that Bigfoot himself, you was talking about how you think that there's, you're pretty sure that there's more than one race or more than one type. I think that also in the footprints, they've got some prints that look more monkey or great apish with the offset, like big thumb foot, and then the others that we're used to seeing, like Patty's footprint, which is that footprint that's it's behind Jason's shirt over there. But that's a cast of Patty's footprint over there. But it looks more human,
Yes.
and so I think that it does show that there is differences.
Sorry.
Yeah, right.
For some reason it turned itself up. So, can you see my hand? Can you see that I have a ridge in my hand that's different?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have a pad in my hand like a dog. So my particular clan of the Cherokee is called the Aniwaya, which means people of the wolf. But it's said backwards in English, so you're going to say wolf clan. Okay. So I'm wolf clan. I have a pad in my palm of my hand, but I also have a genetic trait with thumb. And it's been proven in human history that every 400 years there's a genetic mutation that gives us, for example, blue eyes. Blue eyes was a genetic mutation,
Mm-hmm.
and it occurred, and then 400 years later, another genetic mutation takes place. So my hitchhiker thumb is a genetic mutation, pad and palm of my hand. So you can look at distinct species, like they've just discovered a new species of orca that is off the coast of the Mediterranean, and they're sinking boats. They're aggressive.
Hmm.
Really?
Now, how many Inuits have sailed the oceans hunting whales with the help of the orca?
Yeah.
So it tells you that definitely in certain areas they might be more aggressive. They might be slightly more evolved or evolved to a different end.
Yeah.
So genetics is amazing, and I think that once that people come to the understanding that it is a species, or cryptids are a species in general. There's been a lot done with the chupacabra, for example.
Right.
You know, they've discovered actual examples. They've got frozen specimens. You know, and know that your government, and oh boy, better not go off conspiracy.
It's
Your
all right.
government and religions do not always want you to know
Right.
the facts. It's kind of like your history
the
book.
truth.
95% of your
Right.
history book is a lie.
Well,
Well, how can I quantify that or say that? Because if it was a true history book, you would be getting multiple perspectives on every single story and
mhm.
allowed to decide for yourself
Right.
what version of the truth. So if I see Sasquatch, for example, you may see it and get something totally different out of it. And it's the same thing.
Right.
So, you know,
Right.
I think that
Yeah.
we will see in the future an evolution of understanding. And humanity has got to grow, because honestly, we're building houses like we did 200 years ago. We're not advancing as a species like we should.
Right.
And until we get more in touch with the natural world and what's around us, we're
Yeah.
not going to advance.
Right. Well, I think we've lost most of humanity with building our buildings and faster travel. We've lost our connection with this planet. Completely lost our connection with this planet.
Correct.
And we're no longer in sync with this planet at all. And I think that's also, and this is my opinion, of course, but I think that's why a lot of people are sick as they are, because we're not, you know, with what we're supposed to
Right.
be. I mean,
Nature,
we're
medicine,
yeah,
technology. When we think that we're a technologically advanced species, but you think about your grandmother, they survived the Great Depression.
yep,
They could provide themselves food. They could
Yep.
sustain themselves.
Yep.
We are not sustainable. One nuclear event, one weather event, one war, one God, any number of cataclysmic events or geo destabilization. And we're back to the Stone Age, folks.
Yep.
So we have lost so much. I mean, when you look back at history, you know, we talk about nuclear weapons.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a thing, right? Well, one of the first civilizations on the planet was wiped out in a nuclear explosion, and a city turned to glass in Pakistan.
Yep.
Now, how do you have a nuclear blast before there's a nuclear weapon?
Right.
We don't understand a fraction of technology that we have lost. Knowledge of the ancients, which I would call gnosis.
Mhm.
You know, it's an illumination of the world around us. You know, I think that we have lost more than we have gained. We've actually slid backwards.
Right.
And I think the more dependent on technology we have become, and I'm not saying technology is a bad thing, because you guys are
Right.
high tech. You're way above my pay grade. But honestly, we've slid backwards. So perhaps as our understanding of nature and the natural world, because now what, you know, our ancestors took to be solid and made, you know, a lot of stories about, and,
Mhm.
you know, was brought down through the generations by oral tellings and stories and songs. You know, now we think, oh, that's just, you know, that can't be.
Mhm.
No, because your eyes are closed and your
Right.
eyes will remain closed.
Yep.
And if you're not receptive, if you don't want to learn something, you're not going to learn.
Nope.
But if you do open your mind and you want to learn and you want to explore cryptozoology, aliens, whatever it be, you can find some amazing things that are out there by so many different sources. And you know, and one might not appeal to you, but you might get on to somebody that does appeal to you. You know,
Right.
so I think that that's important.
Yeah.
That's a
Absolutely.
good message.
Shows like
Yeah, it
this,
is.
shows like this are important.
Yeah.
For people to move forward and to understand they're not alone.
Yep.
That you can call in and have a discussion about what you've experienced or seen,
Yes.
or you can ask questions of somebody that
Yes.
you know has taken the time and been brave enough. You know, stand. Of course, you know, I figure I'm going to get some backlash, but that's okay. I'm tough. I got broad shoulders.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people might come to me that has said, "Hey, I too have."
Mhm.
And that's what I want.
Yep.
People, I think, are more like what you were saying. They're detached.
Mhm.
They walk around. You know, I can go in a restaurant and people don't even talk. They're sitting at a table. They're on their cell phone. They don't even
Yep.
look up at each other. They don't. Everybody's so. I guess with their technology,
Yeah.
they're detached from everything else.
Yep.
I mean, there could be a Sasquatch. Or like, well, we didn't see Sasquatch. Well, if you wasn't on your cell phone, listening to your
Right.
radio with your headphone, earphones in, and
Yeah.
he was standing right beside you, you might have seen him.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
If
so
you've not been on TikTok, you might not.
Yeah.
and he's a master of and I would be too if I lived in the woods and we had our
Yep.
abilities to be alert. Because when you're outside, it's different. If you go on camp and you're in a
Yep.
tent or whatever, all your senses are alert. You want to know what's going on around you. You hear a noise, you're going to be paying attention. You want to know what's coming at you in the dark. We don't have that because we're safe in our houses where we have our TV, our cell phones, and
Yep.
we block everything else out around us and until it's too late.
Yep.
So, if people
And
want
look,
that back, we need to start paying attention.
You look like this.
I think we can coexist
like a
without
human. So everybody's used to
killing
human.
it. But humans, and you
Yeah.
can't
What if you
blame
had a
them.
natural ghillie suit?
Yep. So that's what I
kill
believe.
You
each
ever heard of
other.
a ghillie suit?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Google a ghillie suit.
Yeah.
So Sasquatch wearing a natural ghillie suit. You
Yep.
tell me you're gonna spot him.
Nope.
I can go in a ghillie suit and I'm gonna get within 15 feet. I can take a water gun and mess you up.
Yep.
With a
Well,
ghillie suit.
you
I
know,
promise.
I've made the make the analogy all the time when we talk about this subject, but we have deer all over here. I mean, just today there was deer walking right behind the house. We've got rubbings or where their antlers fall off, and we've got them upstairs and stuff. But I could sit here on my top porch and look over here in the yard, and there'll be 4 or 5 deers eating. Right? They'll hear me walk over there. They'll just kind of just slowly walk up to the woods. But what's crazy is that the second they hit that tree line, they disappear. They're gone. You're watching these things go into, and they just disappear. And then you'll see that tail flick or something, and you're like, oh, there you are. Now I can see you again. But they just right in front of you. They just seem to just vanish.
What's like a AR-15?
Yeah.
If you got an AR-15 rifle, you got what they call a black rifle.
Mm-hmm.
They stand out. If you go in the woods and you got an AR-15, you can see it quite some distance away. This guy's got a black rifle.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's probably AR-15. You can tell by the shape. But I could put some stripes on that. Just some simple stripes, green stripes, all different directions, crazy. And suddenly you don't see it. And it's there.
Right.
Same with a UFO or a Sasquatch. They can be right there.
Right.
Everybody always says, we haven't found a body. Why can't you find remains? I've lived in West Virginia. I've lived in South Carolina. I've lived in Tennessee. And we know we have black bear. How many black bear bodies do you see?
None.
How many bones?
Never have.
I have never, as much
Never
as
found a
I've
skull.
been in
No.
the ones, have never
And I
found
used to go hunt
skull,
ginseng.
never found a single bone, not a tooth, nothing, no claws, no fur,
Right.
nothing to show
Yeah.
that it was there. I've seen tracks, knew it was there,
Very
but I've
seldom.
never. So, what happens to all these bodies?
Right.
Nature is a natural, if you see an animal on the road, natural cleanup crews come in.
Right.
Coyote.
Yes.
Boats get drug off. I mean, there's people like you was talking about the missing people.
Yeah.
People come up missing. They never find any sign of them. They're just gone. And, there can be a variety of reasons like that. Some of them could be taken. Some of them could be, deceased and the animals have drug them off. But, and we know, like you go up Cades Cove sometimes, we seen black bears walk. We saw deer coming to your house today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
walking.
How many?
So how many do you see dead?
Right.
None.
None.
Well, except for as a
One's
truck
hit by
driver, I was hit by,
18-wheeler.
yeah.
How many bears did we see last weekend at the hotel? Or three?
3. Yeah.
Just walking right by next to you.
Yeah.
3.
Crazy.
Yeah, at the Bigfoot conference. Yeah.
Yep. But somebody from Ohio that hadn't seen very many deer or bear, he might have been like, "Oh, you didn't see no bear."
Yeah.
You
They
sure
don't come into
didn't.
the
Come
city.
on down to Cades Cove. We show you a little something.
Yeah.
something. You're right.
Yeah. They're full of them.
Well, that's about the end of the show.
That's 2 hours already.
2 hours.
Time flies when you're
That's
having fun.
insane. What's crazy is no one called.
Thank you for having us. They're scared.
Thank
Hey.
you.
They're
scared of me.
scared. I don't
Appreciate
know
you
why.
guys.
You're gonna. I hope you can come back because it's
Yes.
been fun.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get
Y'all
into
welcome
some
to help
different
set
stuff.
up some cameras.
Yeah, we'd
Hey,
love to.
we would love to do
I'm
that.
game.
Yes.
We would love to do
And I
that.
promise I'll give you my suit so you know.
It would be
Yeah.
cool if you all could film him.
Yes.
And show actual proof that hey.
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
with
Oh,
him.
we would love to do it.
That would be
We
cool.
yeah. Yep.
We just want to live in harmony with him and
Right.
with the things that we don't understand because we're in the world with them or the universe.
Right.
Like I said, when the heavens created was plural, God
Mhm.
created the heavens and earth. We don't understand a fraction. We don't understand 85% what's under our own ocean.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
come on. Yeah. And land is the same way.
Yep.
You know, I've been in places, I guarantee you, there's been very few, if any, people ever there.
Yeah. Go ahead. I know he's gonna say something.
It's your turn. We're gonna close it out.
My turn.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let everybody know that you can find us at paranormal411.org, Paranormal 411 on Facebook, YouTube, and X. Look at that. I said it right that time. Tune in live every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're in the metro Atlanta area, you catch us at WDJY FM. That's 99.1 FM, and that's going to happen here in about a couple minutes. Isn't it, Jason? Oh, it's already on. It's 10:13, so you could already be listening to us. For listeners outside of Atlanta, you could visit WDJYFM.com or click the link on our website. We're also on Subspace Radio and all major podcast platforms. Don't miss our new book, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore, Edition 2, available on Amazon or at paranormal411.org. Join us.
Join us.
Join
See
us.
y'all Tuesday.
Everybody have a good night. Have a good weekend.